Hose.
Oh boy.
Mr. Squidward, welcome to the night shift.
What's up, everyone? I hope everybody's having a fine Sunday. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of The Night Shift. I'm Lauro Antonio alongside James Gonzalez and the Asian Skip Bayless, Isaiah Leong. We have a lot of good topics to be talking about today, folks. So, fellas, how are you guys doing tonight?
Okay, how about y'all?
Good. How about you, Isaiah?
I'm doing great, guys. Had a great Sunday at the airport. It's right now it's empty as heck, so I'm kind of like the only person in here besides the janitors. But it's cool, man. It's good to be in the airport. I don't know if you guys can see it clearly, but I got a airplane right over there, which is awesome to get that, backdrop, which is great. And I got myself a bag of Cheetos, best chips on the planet. So I'm going to enjoy these while doing the show tonight. But going to be a great show. We weren't actually supposed to have a night shift. We just did it because it's been a busy, packed day in sports, and there's a lot of things to talk about, and there's a lot of stuff that we just have to get off our chest.
Isaiah, let me get a Cheeto real quick.
All right, folks, before we get into it, next Sunday will be a special extra point edition for NFL free agency. We're going to have a lot to be getting off our chest then. But let's lead things off with news around Major League Baseball. As the MLB Players Union and the league both agreed to ban shifts and implement a pitch clock and also enlarge the bases starting in the 2023 season, which is already next season already. I was thinking to myself at first, is it this season? No, it's next season. I think Universal DH is going to be it's going to be starting this year, whenever this whole collective bargaining agreement ends. I'll start with you, Isaiah. You have a lot to get off on your chest here. What was your overall thoughts about banning shifts, pitch clock installation, and enlarging the bases?
Well, Rob Manfred in Major League Baseball never ceases to disappoint fans. That's my thoughts on it. I am very disgusted at Major League Baseball. I am very upset at this news because, it's one thing to have expanded playoffs. It's one thing to, have the universal DH, but it's another thing to ban shifts and also to enlarge the bases. That's the issue that I have. I don't have any issue with the pitch clock because, they want to speed up the game and, some of the games are going too long and you don't want pitchers basically taking, a minute or two just to read signs from their catcher. So I think the pitch clock is a very good idea, but I just think that banning shifts, you're basically changing the foundation of baseball. You're messing with the integrity of the game of Major League Baseball. And I just don't like that. You're banning shifts now because the hitters, they can't learn to pull the ball to the opposite field or hit the ball to the opposite field. They can't do it, which, you should learn how to do it. They don't want to learn how to do it. So you're going to appease the hitters by banning the shift. So if you're going to do that, you're going to try to mess with the game that way. You're going to mess with other teams' defensive strategies and all of that stuff. What's next? A hitter can't hit a curveball, so we're going to ban pitchers from throwing curveballs from now on. What this honestly could be the start of the opening of Pandora's box, where you see MLB start to make a whole number of changes just to the game of baseball itself, the way it's being played, because hitters or pitchers they can't adapt to what the other team is doing. So I just think it's a major mistake to ban the shift. I really have no problem with the shift because it's, a lot of people are going to be, oh, it's boring because the other hitters, they always shift to the right side if you're a left-handed hitter. And, the left-handed hitter would always hit it to the right field, and it's supposed to be a base hit, but it's not because it's right into the shift. It's gobbled up, and he gets thrown out at first. Well, then learn to hit the ball to the opposite field. Learn to hit it to left field. That's how you are supposed to be a complete hitter. You're not supposed to mess with the game of baseball like how you're doing right now. You're basically taking away other teams' strategies now by banning the shift. The shift is not like something where teams just do it, like they do it because it benefits them. It helps them win. So that's why they do it. And now you're banning it. Well, you're basically messing with the integrity of the game, and I really just don't like that.
You're right, Isaiah. I mean, banning shifts is messing up the integrity of the game, but I have no problem with pitch clocks and universal DH.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with the clocks or the DH. The bases, do we really need to enlarge the base? Like, why can't you just keep the game how it's supposed to be played and keep it normal? This is the thing I don't like about Rob Manfred. He came in to baseball, which, if you read Twitter, if you read social media, there's always going to be negative comments about baseball, NBA, NFL, etc. And there's going to be negative comments about players. But if you ask like a majority of baseball fans, the game wasn't broken. It wasn't broken at all. You could make some tweaks. You could, but the game wasn't broken. And Rob Manfred has come in and has fixed what is not broken. He's fixed, the pace of play. He's inserted the stupid extra inning rule. And now, you have this new rule with, which I think they're going to begin in 2023 to ban the shift. It's like the game wasn't broken. Baseball was a great game. It wasn't broken. You could have fixed the other stuff surrounding baseball, like marketing and all of that other stuff, budget, money, and all that stuff, how much players are getting paid. But no, you instead chose to turn your attention to something that was not broken, and you made it broken. So I just don't like any of these rule changes by Rob Manfred, and banning the shift is just the latest of just idiotic moves by Rob Manfred.
I think that was an idiotic move by Rob Manfred to ban the shift. I mean, everybody, like Goose Gossage would say, he wants to punch that guy in the face, but really, he's really trying to say is that Rob Manfred has been ruining baseball, and he has been ruining baseball. And James, what is your thoughts on the Players Union and the league to ban shifts, implement a pitch clock, and enlarge the bases?
I guess I don't mind, like you guys said, I don't mind the pitch clock. I think they've been clamoring for that for years. The fans have as well. Used to have those pitchers that would take, 20, 25, 30 seconds, 40 seconds to pitch, like relief pitchers. Remember, Baez with the Dodgers, he would take forever to throw. Rafael Betancourt with the Rockies and the Indians back in the day would take forever to throw. So that's a good thing. I think that will speed us along. Enlarging the bases, I don't have an issue with that. It's an advantage for both someone sliding in and someone trying to tag the base. Thing is, the players will have to get adjusted to that, especially the ones that cover the bases, that have to start double plays, whether you're the shortstop or the second baseman. It's starting in 2023. You're going to have to get adjusted to that, where you don't have to go as far anymore. You can step on the back quicker, I guess. You can get there quicker. With the shifts, I understand both sides, because the purists want no shifts, They want you to field your position. You're playing that position. They want you to field it the best that you can without cheating the game. But the hitters don't want it. But the fielders and the defense loves it because you get people out. So it's a notice to all those left-handed hitters that you're going to get those singles back that you get to right field, that were normally, long ground outs or long fly balls that were for outs. So that's going to be interesting to see. Hi, Chrissy Wilson. So I'm torn on that. The thing is, guys, with the bases, I was hoping at first base, and I wonder if you guys would agree with this or not. In like softball leagues all across America, they have two bases. Some of them do at first base, where the runner has his own, and then at first base or the pitcher who covers first can tap theirs. I was hoping to see that. And then also another thing for you guys to, wonder and talk about, the outfield. Now, how is that not a problem with them shifting over whenever they want? You know what I mean? Like, if the infield can't shift, can the outfield shift, or will that be gone as well?
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, I think that we'll have to wait and see. I just think that Rob Manfred, as you said, James, he is really ruining the game of baseball. Now, Isaiah, do you have any input on this before we move on to our next topic?
Well, James, I think to your point about the outfield shift, I think if the infield shifts are banned, I think the outfield shifts will be banned as well, just because you're probably banning all shifts in general. So, okay. I mean, you're basically ruining everybody's defensive strategies. Like I get the fact that, a lot of hitters can't hit or beat the shift, but that's how you're supposed to adjust when you're playing sports. It's like in the NBA, teams are playing the zone defense. You can't do anything. So what are you going to do? Ban the zone defense as well? Or, in the NFL, like, nickel defense, teams have trouble with it, or teams have trouble, with the blitz. What are you going to do? Ban the blitz? Like, it's just like at that, like, you're really going to mess with, like, I understand all the other stuff, but banning the shift is just utterly ridiculous because you're literally messing with the sport and messing with, like, the real live game. And that's what I have a problem with. Like, that's why I hated the extra inning rule, was not because I thought, the reason why I hated it was because I'm of the mindset that you're supposed to earn your points, not, hand given those points that you have in extra innings. I was okay with it for the COVID year, but I'm so glad that it's not going to be here for the rest of time. But this is just ridiculous, man. Like I said earlier, it's Pandora's box just open. Who knows what changes MLB will be tinkering to the game after this comes into play. Like, I honestly could see more stuff that you do to the game, and soon, who knows? Like, maybe we'll be playing with, like, tennis balls instead of baseballs. Like, that's how. Like, if you're going to make this radical change, who knows how much more changes you can do to the game of baseball.
And let me counter that 10 inning, with the starting the runner there. I'm going to be opposite, and I think I'm the only one that likes it. We've seen those extra inning games, go to 15, 16, 17, 18, and then totally destroy teams' seasons from those games. Destroy their bullpens and their players. I like that extra inning rule, and I wish they would have kept it. I think the games get done earlier. The fans aren't as mad anymore because the concessions are closed up. With the long inning games that you would get in the past, you would have concessions already closed up. I guess you could get hot chocolate or whatever for those cold nights. But with that 10 inning rule with the runner, starting at second, you get more action and quicker action to a game trying to end. So I actually like that rule. I don't know how everybody else felt or feels about it, but I actually liked it.
All right, James and Isaiah. Now we're going to move on to college basketball here and also talk about Michigan ends an up and down regular season by going into Columbus and upsetting their arch rivals, Ohio State, 75-69. And following the Buckeyes' loss to Michigan, there has been a rampant decision on social media about Coach Chris Holtmann status moving forward, whether or not Ohio State should keep him or fire him. Does Chris Holtmann deserve to keep his job or be let go after this loss, which caps a disappointing finish of the regular season for Ohio State? Ohio State has been good all year long, Isaiah and James, and I think that you don't fire a coach because of that. I think that you're going to expect Ohio State to be in the NCAA tournament, and I think you should expect them to make a deep run at this. So I'm going to start with you, Isaiah. Do you think that Chris Holtmann deserves to keep his job or be let go?
Well, let me first start with this Ohio State-Michigan game. Let me look directly into the camera and say this to Steven, Trevor, Shree, and all of our Ohio State Buckeyes fans that we have on the network. How about the Michigan Wolverines, baby? Hail to the victors. Michigan owns Ohio State, not only in football, but now in basketball. I mean, what a win for Michigan, who was missing their head coach, Juwan Howard. They were missing their star player, their center, Hunter Dickinson, who didn't play, I believe, with a stomach illness. And they still go into Columbus, one of the most hostile environments in college basketball, and they managed to pull off the upset. I mean, this was just a phenomenal win by Michigan. Phil Martelli, the Michigan interim head coach, who's been filling in for Juwan Howard, he's done a fabulous job coaching that program. And without Dickinson, he's a monster center, but without him, and they still managed to do what they did. I mean, it was just so impressive to watch what Michigan was able to do. And let me tell you guys this. Watch out for Michigan. Watch out for them, because I think that Juwan Howard incident really woke them up. Now they're playing with a chip on their shoulder. They're rolling. They've won, I believe, 4 out of the last 6 games. They just beat Ohio State. They beat Michigan State by 17. Watch out for Michigan in the NCAA tournament. I think Michigan right now, they're just laying in the weeds there. They're laying in the weeds to try to pounce on their opponent. But I think Michigan can make some real noise come NCAA tournament time. Once Howard comes back, once Dickinson comes back, they had to integrate a lot of freshman players, a lot of new players into their team. And it seems like they finally got that chemistry. They finally figured it out. And I think Michigan is primed to go on a major run in the NCAA tournament. But what a win by Michigan today. As far as Ohio State is concerned, Laura, I think you made a great point that, Chris Holtmann's done a fabulous job coaching Ohio State. He has been terrific for them as their head coach. I believe he's led them to 4 NCAA tournament appearances as their coach. But Ohio State, I feel like their fans are spoiled. And here's why. Ohio State fans always expect to go to the championship. Their football champ, they expect championship. If they don't do it, it's a disappointment. For their basketball team, I think they have unfair expectations they're trying to match with their football team to their basketball team. They want their basketball team to have that championship or bust type of standard like their football team. And I'm here to tell you that the basketball team, unfortunately, is not really that good compared to the football team. You're not getting top 5 recruiting classes every single year. I think Holtmann's done a solid job. But the only issue that I have with him is that his team's chokes in the second half of the season, and his teams always falter they always falter in the tournament, and they always just kind of they kind of like don't meet expectations in the tournament. Like last year, they got bounced out in the second round by a team that was, I believe, the 14th seed in the tournament. They were the 3 seed. They got bounced by the 14th seed. So I don't know if Holtmann should go. I don't think he should be fired after this loss to Michigan. But if he loses to like another 13 or 14 seed and fails to get out of the Sweet 16, then I think you do have a legitimate case to part ways with him.
And what about you, James? What is your thoughts on Chris Holtmann and this game overall between Ohio State and Michigan?
Yeah, I echo the same things that Isaiah said about the game. You know, Ohio State led by 7 at the half. It was 37-30. And then Michigan just woke up. They must have got a good pep talk or something in the locker room. Ended up scoring 45 in the second half. Ohio State was just down to 32 points. Big night day from Devontae Jones, the transfer from Coastal Carolina. He had a big 21 points there for Michigan. Ohio State was led by E.J. Liddell, and then Mekhi Branham, 18 points and 21, respectively. And then about the Michigan, I definitely like what Isaiah said. Without their head coach, I think they have a little chip on their shoulder, and they're ready to do some damage in the Big Ten tournament first to solidify a chance to get into the dance. I mean, they're already, the last 4 in or whatever, but if they have a good run in the Big Ten tournament, then for sure they'll be in. For Ohio State, it's just like Isaiah mentioned, and there was something I wanted to read here about their coach and then their how they feel about Ohio State basketball. So about Ohio State basketball, this man tweeted, Nate Atkins on Twitter. He mentioned Chris Holtmann's Buckeyes start a season hot, fade fast, and skid to an early tournament exit, and it's an annual tradition at Columbus. I guess they peter out, and it seems like they do. But there's no real talk that Holtmann will lose his job after this season. They may look at next season to be on a real hot seat, especially if they go out the same way they did last year in the second round, as Isaiah mentioned. Then you could talk about it next season. But this loss to Michigan doesn't warrant a firing whatsoever for Chris Holtmann.
Oh, absolutely not. But let's go to our comments here. Christy Wilson says, Rob Manfred is destroying the game of baseball. Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. And Ben Curse wants to know this. What's up, guys? Sorry I couldn't make it tonight. Expect me back this week. Michigan's doing well without Juwan Howard. Who's everyone's sleeper team in for the NCAA tournament leading into the NCAA tournament? For me, my sleeper team, they might make another Cinderella story run. It's the Loyola Chicago Ramblers. What about you, Isaiah?
My sleeper team, Ben, Loro, and James, is the Georgia Bulldogs. No, I'm kidding. Georgia's only got 1 win in the SEC, and they got 6 wins in total. And they're probably going to fire their coach. But for me, I think I said it earlier. It's Michigan, because Michigan right now, it seems like they're peaking at the right time. They have done extremely well after losing Juwan Howard to that suspension. And also, you look at it, it just seems like Michigan, after having to integrate so many freshmen, after having to integrate so many new players to replace the many players that departed to the NBA draft or just graduated, it seems like they finally got their groove. And I think that Michigan, do not be shocked. This might be crazy talk right here, but do not be shocked if Michigan wins it all. Because when you look at the NCAA tournament this year, and I think, James, you could probably agree with me, there's really no clear-cut best team in the country. It's like everybody has had their bumps and bruises this season, but everybody's kind of on the same playing field in the NCAA tournament. And you could definitely see, especially this year with no clear-cut best team in the country, you could see, Michigan just coming back from being dead to winning it all just because there's really no best team. And when you look at the NCAA tournament, it's like a one-game winner-take-all type of a deal. So that's why I'm saying, like, this year, I think we're going to see a team that literally nobody thought 3 weeks before the NCAA tournament would even win it, wins the NCAA tournament.
All right. Anyways, with that being said,
my future would be North Carolina.
Yeah, I think they're going to get in too. So anyways, let's talk about this. Fred Hoiberg and his Nebraska Cornhuskers go into Madison and stun the number 10 ranked Wisconsin Badgers by the final of 74-73. So, Isaiah, I'm going to go to you on this one. What was your takeaways on this stunning win for the Nebraska Cornhuskers under former Chicago Bull head coach Fred Hoiberg?
My takeaway is what I said about a minute ago. There is no clear-cut best team in the NCAA this year. There's really not. Wisconsin, a couple weeks ago, everybody was looking at them like, oh my God, is this the clear-cut best team? And guess what? They lose to an unranked Nebraska team who had been struggling under Fred Hoiberg this entire season and the last couple of seasons. They lose to them at home in Madison, Wisconsin. There's just no clear-cut best team this year in college basketball. That's why this year I think will be the best college basketball tournament we've seen in the last 10 years, just because of how much parity there is and how much of how nobody's really that dominant this year in college basketball. So that was like my biggest takeaway. My other takeaway was Fred Hoiberg is the right coach for Nebraska. I know there's been talk on social media that they might fire him, but I think Nebraska would be making a major mistake by not keeping Fred Hoiberg just because he's only been there 2 years, and you can't judge a coach, especially in college, after 3 years.
And what about you, James? What is your thoughts on the Nebraska Cornhuskers going into Madison and beating the number 10 Wisconsin Badgers?
Well, it was all Alonzo Verge Jr. I remember him from Arizona State. He transferred over to Nebraska from last season. He had 26 points, Walker with 15, Witcher with 10. It was very shocking. And this kind of upset, it reminds me of the NFL when you have like a really bad team and they come on late and they pull off an upset. They don't make the playoffs or anything like that. But the coach kind of saves his job because they had a good, last 3 or 4 games, but you still have a losing record. So this reminds me of it with Fred Hoiberg. I've been hearing the rumblings as well, like Isaiah mentioned, about him and his job status. I guess this win saves him from getting fired for sure. But like Isaiah mentioned, I didn't think he was going to get fired anyway. I think they would have had another year or two to figure it out. But nevertheless, the now 11-21 Cornhuskers get a big win over now the 24-7 Wisconsin Badgers. And now I want to see where they'll drop to. I think definitely they'll drop out of the top 10 with this loss going into the Big Ten tournament.
All right, we're going to stay on the basketball topic here. From college basketball, we're going to the NBA. Jason Tatum dropped 54 points to lead the streaking Celtics past Kevin Durant and the Nets by the final of 126-120. Saturday, we saw LeBron James score 56 points. And then today we saw Jason Tatum drop 54 points. And I'll tell you what, like I talked about last night on the night shift with Ben, the Boston Celtics, they are not a first-half team. And I get it. I think that they are streaking at the right time. I think this Boston Celtics team, you and I, Isaiah, even had them in the play-in game. Them and Indiana 7-8, but now the Pacers are now in the doghouse. They're one of the worst teams in the NBA. Not to fault Rick Carlisle, but the Pacers are rebuilding. Like we said, they traded away Sabonis just because they needed to rebuild and all that. But give me your thoughts on this game right now with the Celtics beating the Brooklyn Nets and Jason Tatum scoring 54 points.
Well, here's my first thought on this game. Jason Tatum, I'm gonna channel my inner Stephen A. Smith when I say this. Jason Tatum is a bad man. He is a bad man. And my goodness, man, he is very, very special. You know, it just pains me every time I watch him play on the court. I just keep thinking, man, the Lakers could have had him. We could have had him, but we didn't pick Lonzo Ball over Jason Tatum. And, man, I keep thinking about the LeBron, Tatum, and AD potential big three, and I'm just like, oh, man, why, Magic? Why? Why did you squander that golden opportunity? But, you know, having said that, I need to be careful because I know my guy Ben Curse, shout out to you, Ben, is watching this show, and he's probably going to come on at any moment and come on and roast me if I say something stupid. So I'll say this. I think the Boston Celtics have a personal vendetta against me just because literally every single show we talk about the Celtics, after we're done, it seems like the Celtics come back the next day with a tremendous performance to make me eat my words and look like an absolute fool. I mean, yesterday, I said, even though Ben roasted me, I said about how I still didn't think the Celtics were true contenders in the East. I said, I think Miami and Philadelphia, I said I would take even Cleveland, I think, or it was Chicago, that I would take over them. And then the Celtics come back in the morning matinee game and come back against Kevin Durant and the Brooklyn Nets, and Kyrie Irving was there too. And they just light it up and they beat the Nets. And Jason Tatum had a phenomenal performance and they win yet again. I mean, this Celtics team, I swear, LeBron James has a personal vendetta against. I don't know why, but they do. I don't know why. But Boston, listen, I gave them flack for their inconsistent play to start the season. I said they needed to trade Tatum and that Tatum and Brown together wasn't going to work out. Yes, I was one of those guys that said that. But when you look at Boston, Tatum is special. I think Tatum and Brown, they definitely can coexist and work together. And I also think that the Celtics are just hitting their stride right now at the right time, and they're red hot. And this is a team that you don't want to play come playoff time. You do not want to play the Boston Celtics come playoff time, because if you do, it's going to be a hard series for whoever's the top seed in the Eastern Conference going up against the Boston Celtics. So like what the Celtics are, how the Celtics are playing right now, I still think it's Miami and it's Philadelphia, and then I think probably Milwaukee, and then Chicago, and then Boston. But I mean, the Celtics have been very, very impressive, and I think just by me saying what I just said just now, the Celtics are probably going to go on another 15-game winning streak.
You might be right about that, but I don't think they're going to have a 15-game win streak, though. So, James, what was your thoughts on Jason Tatum's historic performance and the Celtics to beat Kevin Durant and the Brooklyn Nets?
Well, running through the stats here, in 41 minutes, Tatum scored that 54 points. 16 of 30 from the field, 8 from 15 from three-point land. He made 14 out of 17 free throws. Just amazing to do that. Oh, he had 3 assists as well. But Celtics win the last 4 out of 5. Just an amazing day. Brown also had 21 though, and then Smart had 14, Horford with 13. Robert Williams III, he cleans up inside. He had 10, but he's a tremendous rebounder. I know he had 8 tonight, but he's a great rebounder. For the Nets, Durant had 37. Irving only had 19. Brown with a surprising 16. Aldridge with 14. As you heard the whole game, the Celtic fans were booing Kyrie Irving relentlessly, and it seems like it's going to be like that for the rest of Irving's career. But it was weird, though, because the Nets won the first quarter. Celtics came back in the second. Boston won the second half. But, dude, it was all Jason Tatum. This guy, a Kobe disciple, he's just tremendous. And he goes on these scoring feats like Kobe. It's so reminiscent. And there's a reason why he wears his wristband where he does. And it just looks like Kobe whenever he goes off like this. So it was really good to see that today. For Brooklyn, it's kind of a head scratcher because you figured, okay, we're going back and forth. KD's just going to take over, and he kind of did. But Tatum, they just couldn't stop him. I mean, I just wondered, if they put KD on him, would have been better? The switches always happen, and Tatum's left with Brown or somebody else on him that can't guard him as well. And it seemed like that was happening all day today. So shout out to Jason Tatum, Ben's Celtics, as they keep letting the air out on Isaiah's takes from a couple months ago.
Yeah, I mean, he is. He also said something like Tatum had the best game of his career, which was definitely he progressed so much, and he broke a milestone today. And he's kind of like the next Kevin Durant in the NBA right now. But anyways, going on to the Cleveland Cavaliers, who Isaiah predicted that they're going to be a playoff team, which they already are. But I said that I didn't want to jump the gun on them just yet because they're so young and that they had to figure out what they needed to do. But I'll tell you what, that they might be without one of their star players, Jared Allen, for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
He suffered a fractured finger and is expected to be sidelined indefinitely. Despite all the injuries that the Cavs had to deal with, Isaiah, this team is really good, and they are hanging in there in this playoff race. And I got to say is that the Cleveland Cavaliers, I really think that the Cavs, to me, they are a team that you can't mess with. They're a team that you can't sleep on. Even if they had a healthy Lauri Markkanen, that still would have been a dangerous team with Markkanen in the lineup, with Evan Mobley, Darius Garland, Colin Sexton. This is a Cavs team that you can't sleep on still. And you might agree with me on this. So what is your thoughts on Jared Allen being out for a while?
Well, low roll, first of all, get that white chip ready. Because I'm going to go on record and say something that I've been feeling in my heart for the last couple weeks, but I haven't wanted to say it because I've been extremely scared. And that is, mark my words, folks. Mark my words. I'm going to go on record and say this. Mark my words, folks. The Cleveland Cavaliers will go to the Eastern Conference Finals next season. Because right now, when you look at it, Cleveland, how many games have they won? 37, right? 37 games. They're doing this with Colin Sexton, who is a tremendous scorer. He's out. He's had a knee surgery.
By the way, Isaiah, you got the white. You got that what thing for you?
Yes. On my Cavs Eastern Conference Finals prediction for next season. But when you look at this Cavs team, they're doing all of this winning with Sexton. He's out. Markkanen, he's missed time. They've been having injuries, left and right, and they're still winning, which is very, very impressive. Don't forget to mention Dylan Windler, who is a true 3-point threat for Cleveland. He's been out for a while as well. So, Cleveland is scary, man. They remind me a lot of a young Warriors team, honestly, with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. I'm not saying they're going to be as potent as them, but with how deep they are, with how young they are, with how talented they are, I think that this Cleveland Cavaliers team, they're going to go a long way next season if they can get their pieces back and healthy. Darius Garland has emerged as an all-star. Markkanen, Mobley has been tremendous out of James's USC Trojans. And then JB Bickerstaff, I think he's done a phenomenal job coaching that team, and he should definitely be maybe a front runner for Coach of the Year. But in terms of this Jarrett Allen news, this is a brutal loss for the Cavs because the Cavs like to employ that big lineup with Mobley, with Allen, and with Markkanen at the 3. And that lineup is pretty much unstoppable in offense because they're basically like the twin. They're like the Twin Towers, since everybody's like 7 foot or taller. And Mobley, I believe he's the power forward. He's 6'11". So that big lineup is just unstoppable. And it's a big blow because Allen was having a tremendous year. He's been one of the most underrated young centers in the NBA. He is a beast when it comes to doing work in the paint and collecting rebounds, so they're definitely going to miss this. I don't think he's going to make it back for the playoffs, unfortunately, because a fractured finger takes a while for that to heal, and you're probably going to have to do surgery as well. So it's a big blow to Cleveland. I hope Cleveland can still keep it up without him because I really want to see the Cavs in the playoffs. But Darius Garland, he's been playing outstanding basketball. He's going to have to take it up another level than he's doing right now, which is already at an all-star level. So that's crazy. But it's going to be the other guys that need to step up. Markkanen, when he comes back, he's got to step up and, he's got to just give the Cavs some of the contributions that Allen would give you in the paint. And I think if you're Cleveland, you probably would have to think about playing Markkanen at center once he comes back because Allen's out. You're going to need a big man that can swallow up the paint, get some rebounds. Markkanen, he's like a stretch 5 or stretch 4. Plus you have Mobley. I think you could do Mobley down low. Who knows? But it's a brutal loss for the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Definitely is a brutal loss for the Cleveland Cavaliers. And what is your takeaways on this, James?
Yeah, it sucks about Jarrett Allen. He was an all-star this year, and it's unfortunate with the injury. Just bad timing, honestly. The win today, though, for the Cavs was huge because they're still in the 6th spot. Boston took them over for the 5th spot. But beating the Raptors now, they're 3 ahead of them. Raptors in the 7th spot. So this was a very important win when it comes down to standings. For the game, though, the Cavaliers, Markkanen had 22, so he did play tonight, and it was good seeing him back. Evan Mobley with 20, Garland with 17, Osman with 17, and Love with 15. I don't know how long they could keep this up, but we'll see. For the Raptors, Siakam had 24, Boucher with 21, Barnes and Trent with 19. They did not have Van Fleet playing. I think it was rest. But Scotty Barnes, he's been a great rookie along with Mobley. So it was interesting seeing those two play each other tonight. And it makes me think that those two will be around for a while as big guys in the league. So I'm all good with that. We're all waiting for the Cavs to, fall. And they have. But the records aren't as good, of course, for the teams below them. So I think they'll be able to hold that 6th spot, but the Raptors may get on a little run. We'll see about that. So good win for the Cavs on national television, by the way. They're really shown on, national television. So it was good seeing them get a win and getting notoriety as well.
All right, folks. So anyways, now we'll talk about this. Nikola Jokic scored 46 points Aaron Gordon added 28 points to help the Nuggets overcome 38 points from Brandon Ingram and beat the Pelicans in a wild game in overtime, 138-130. Denver is starting to get back up at the right time, Isaiah. I think that a lot of people were like the Nuggets are screwed without Jamal Murray, but they still have the man in the middle, Nikola Jokic, who gets it done. And I think that the Denver Nuggets, they're still a really good team. But I just think that if there's a healthy Jamal Murray, you could put Denver in the top 3 or 4 in the Western Conference. But that's if Jamal Murray could just stay healthy here. So, anyways, what is your thoughts on that? What is your reaction to this game?
My reaction to this is why New Orleans needs Zion Williamson back, because Zion gives the Pelicans something that they don't have, and that is size in the middle of the paint. Nikola Jokic was just flat out bullying them in that overtime period. I mean, he single-handedly gave the Nuggets the win in that overtime period. He was an absolute monster in overtime. Jackson Hayes couldn't keep up with him. The other guys just couldn't keep up with him. It was just Jokic, and Jokic in the overtime, and the Pelicans just didn't have any answers for it. But the Pelicans, they're a very fun team to watch. Willie Green's got this group playing really high-level basketball right now. Brandon Ingram is looking like a superstar out there on the floor. You look at, C.J. McCollum, that was a great addition to their team. I think the Pelicans, I personally want to see them in the play-in tournament just because I think it'll be so much fun to watch them in the play-in tournament no matter who they play. But they need Zion. They really do need Zion, because if Zion doesn't come back, then I could definitely see teams just feeding the ball into the paint and just bullying the Pelicans in the paint, because they don't really have any size and strength in the paint to protect the paint. But as far as the Nuggets are concerned, Denver's a great team. They're a force to be reckoned with. Jokic is a force to be reckoned with. And you're right, Laurel. I think that Denver would probably be a 3 or number 4 in the West once Murray comes back from his injury. And once Porter comes back, too. Don't forget about him.
Right.
Yeah, don't want to forget about Michael Porter Jr. because the Denver Nuggets, to me, are a fun team with those guys on the floor. But I just think that what they have right now, I mean, they were off to somewhat of a bad start. This team is peaking right now at the right time. You could agree with me, James. And what's your thoughts on the Nuggets beating the Pelicans in overtime today?
Well, with Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr., both were slated to go to the G League, but now those plans have been scrapped. So I don't know what that tells me, honestly. Part of me wants to think Jamal Murray is not going to come back this season, but I hope that's not the case. With the scoring tonight, Jokic with 46, Aaron Gordon 28, Morris with 18. Jokic with the triple-double, 12 rebounds, and 11 assists to add with those 46 points. It's a real crazy game because Pelicans, they had a lead at the end of 3. And then Denver came back, scored 10 more points to cut it, get it to an overtime, and they took over there. Crazy note about this game is Brandon Ingram, 3 of his 38 points came on this miracle shot before halftime, I believe it was. He literally lost it just before the half-court line, and he didn't even hook shot it. He just literally threw it like a football pass, and it went swish into the basket. It was just crazy. So check that out there. C.J. McCollum had 24. Jonas Valanciunas had 19 points. But, somehow it wasn't enough. But it seems like the Pelicans, they're scoring at such a high rate. And they did tonight, of course. Isaiah mentioned Zion. At this point, I think he would ruin the team chemistry they have right now because he's been gone for so long. it kind of worries me about Zion. And then once he's back, what shape is he going to be in? We haven't seen anything about him except that he's been working out on his foot in Oregon somewhere, out in the woods, so nobody could see him. So I don't know what to believe from those reports. There was an Instagram video where he's taking these two dogs out on a walk and they're going into a store. It looks like he lost some weight, but you can't really tell. The camera adds on 10 pounds, me 20. So you really don't know don't know about Zion and how he's going to fit in. I'm afraid they're going to break up that chemistry New Orleans has right now.
All right. Anyways, with that being said here, let's talk about the Clippers and Knicks game. And I made that video earlier on Facebook Messenger here that I was laughing so hard that the Clippers lost to the New York Knicks for 26-38. And I'm like, I don't like the Clippers. I never will. As a Laker fan myself, and I will laugh at every Clippers loss if they lose to a team like the New York Knicks or even Memphis or if even the Cavs or even the Pistons. I would laugh so hard and give Clipper Darrell such a hard time. And Isaiah, what is your thoughts on the Knicks destroying the Clippers? And you and I love it, man.
Well, James, let me just say this. Welcome to the bandwagon of bad blowout losses, my friend. Mm-hmm. Welcome to the bandwagon of bad blowout losses. We got, a shot of tequila for you, some crackers as well, waiting for you. But, here's the deal. I think the Clippers and the Knicks are honestly kind of like the same teams, to be honest. Like, the Clippers have done extremely well this year, but talent-wise, I think they're kind of like the same. Both teams don't have superstars right now. Both teams, have just supporting cast players playing for them. Both teams are coached by really good coaches. And I honestly just think that this was just one of those games where the Clippers just, they just overlooked the Knicks, and they were just like, wow, man, the New York Knicks are coming in here. They've lost, I believe, 9 of their last 11. The Knicks have been really bad this entire season. Oh, this is going to be an easy win. You can mark that down. And they just weren't that motivated. It's like some of those games in the NBA, like when you're playing, for example, like if you're the Lakers and you're playing, the Spurs, or you're playing a really bad team, then you just won't show up for it because you're like, why do I want to emotionally show up for the game when we're playing this type of an opponent, and you just, take it easy out there on the court. So I think that this was just one of those nights for the Clippers where they just overlooked the Knicks and they just took it easy on the Knicks tonight. And, those are the most dangerous nights in the NBA is when you overlook an opponent, no matter how bad they are. That opponent's playing, with a chip on their shoulder. They're playing with nothing to lose. They're playing with house money, and then they come in and wreck you. So, I've seen it many times as a Laker fan. James, don't worry about it. My Lakers lost to freaking OKC a couple of times, and we blew
twice.
Yeah, we lost twice, exactly. We blew like an 18-point lead or something. It was something like that. But I think it was just one of those nights for the Clippers where they just want to forget about it.
Yeah, low rolling, guys. Clippers are going to have nights like this without their two big guys and also Norman Powell, but I'm not making an excuse with that. The Knicks totally outplayed them from the jump. I know it was only a 3-point lead for the Knicks at the end of one, but after that, the Knicks just held court there. Clippers are going to have nights like this, but they were seriously out-rebounded. Mitchell Robinson, he finally had a great game inside. He had 12 points, but 11 rebounds. He was getting alley-oop dunks. R.J. Barrett had 24 and some big threes. With this, guys, Julius Randle only had 10 points. That's what amazed me in this game. And he was 0 for a while shooting from the field. Quickly at 21. This dude was all over the place on the court. He was getting steals, interrupting things for the Clippers. Burks in the corner was making threes for the Knicks. He had 15. Cam Reddish, who has finally found the floor with the New York Knicks, had 17. It's good to see Cam getting some playing time. That's definitely going to help him out trying to get in, trying to get into the play-in tournament. So justice for Cam Reddish, I guess, there. For the Clippers, Coffee 17, Harkenstein 14, Kennard 10, Jackson 10, Mann 11. Zubac got outplayed. It seems like he's getting outplayed a lot unless he rises up in a game. But Morris Sr. only had 4 points, Batum with 7. You got to get more from Morris, but I think they definitely shut him down. Covington only had 6 as well. So overall, let me tell you, this was a game you thought the Knicks were going to be like the whole season when you saw them play last season. They played this way last season where they were beating opponents pretty well. They were playing for their head coach, Tom Thibodeau. This almost seems like they had a chip on their shoulder after losing on Friday in Phoenix. Cam Johnson hit that game-winning three-pointer, and the Knicks are devastated. Well, it looks like they took it all out on the Clippers tonight. So it's just one of those days, one of those nights.
Definitely was one of those nights. You're absolutely right about that. But anyways, now that being said, let's talk about some football here. So Aaron Rodgers is very torn on whether if he should stay with the Green Bay Packers or request to be traded to another team such as the Broncos, Titans, and Steelers. My thoughts is that, and I'm going to stick to my prediction, I don't think Aaron Rodgers requests for a trade and all that. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to remain a Green Bay Packer, and I'm going to stick to my prediction, and I'm not going to change it. And I think that Aaron Rodgers will remain a Green Bay Packer, and if he doesn't remain a Green Bay Packer, I think he retires. But I do think that he'll be back with the Green Bay Packers next year. Isaiah, the floor is yours on this. What is your thoughts on this whole Aaron Rodgers saga?
Well, my thoughts on this is that I'm not surprised because I feel like he's been torn for the last couple seasons because he knows that he's got a great fan base in Green Bay. He finally made up with the GM in Green Bay. But here's the thing, though. If you're the Green Bay Packers, you're basically at a crossroad as well because if you extend Aaron Rodgers, you're basically admitting that you made a mistake by drafting Jordan Love and you're basically throwing your first-round pick away because there's no way if you extend Rodgers for 5 seasons, there's no way you're going to keep Jordan Love for your future because he's going to be a free agent, I believe, the year after next season. So the Packers are at a crossroad. Rodgers is at a crossroad. I feel like everybody's at a crossroad in this saga. And I just think that at the end of the day, if you're Aaron Rodgers, you got to weigh the salary cap because if money-wise, let's say you get $50 million per year over 3-4 years, you're not going to have any talent to surround you with. And when you look at Denver, they've got a lot of young talent. The offensive line is young and budding. The defense played well last year. They're young. They've got really good receivers in Judy and Cortland Sutton. Plus, they got a great running back in Javonte Williams. Plus, you got Nathaniel Hackett, who you are great friends with and coached you in Green Bay. I think Denver might be the more appealing situation just because if Rodgers makes whatever he makes, Denver, they don't have to give out extensions right now just because a lot of their players aren't due for it right now. So, I am going to be like you, Laurel. I'm going to stick with my prediction from our extra point show that we did a couple weeks ago. And my prediction was I think Aaron Rodgers goes to Denver just because I just think it makes too much sense for Rodgers to not do it just because if you get $50 million, whatever he wants in Green Bay, I don't know if Devontae Adams will be there. Who knows if any other key pieces will be there. And in football, you got to have that great quarterback, obviously, but you also have to have weapons and offensive line around him, or else Aaron Rodgers will be looking like Joe Burrow out there or Trevor Lawrence, getting sacked a whole bunch, running for his life. And he might even look like Tom Brady from when Brady's last year in New England, where he just didn't have the weapons and he struggled mightily there.
don't think he's going to be a Denver Bronco. I disagree with that because I do think that Nathaniel Hackett wants his own person, and I want Nathaniel Hackett to get a young quarterback because Denver, to me, right now is still rebuilding.
Well, here's the thing. Like, if they get Rodgers, right, they won't be rebuilding because a great veteran quarterback changes everything. And I think Denver right now, when you look at it, I'm not saying they're going to make it to the Super Bowl, obviously, but I think they're a quarterback away from making real noise in the playoffs. They have, the weapons. They have Fant, who was a great tight end coming out of the draft. They have Sutton. They have Judy. They also have that receiver who bursted out, onto the scene last year. I'm forgetting his name off the top of my head, but
Sutton.
What's up?
Cortland Sutton.
No, it's not.
Really?
Not Sutton or Judy, but the other guy. He wears, I believe, 81 or 83.
Oh, Tim Patrick.
Yeah, Tim Patrick. That's right. Tim Patrick bursted onto the scene. He's looking like a viable third option as well. I mean, Denver's got the pieces. They have pieces. They have the coaching staff. They just need to get that quarterback. That's the one thing they need.
And they've done that before with Peyton Manning. They brought him in,
Right.
veteran. But I hope that's not the case because I don't need that type of negativity. I already have a lot of it in my division with being a Raider fan. You already have two great quarterbacks. I don't need a third to go against my team. This Rodgers situation is not news to me, honestly. And shout out Tom Grassi and his content. He came out with that video right away saying, well, this is not news. This tweet means nothing about Rodgers being very torn. He's been torn the last couple of years. You talk about last season and the hell we went through covering all that. And now we're going through the same hell this offseason. So it's just a never-ending issue. But now there's more importance on Green Bay. Do you sacrifice a whole roster of free agents for two guys and hope you draft players and get players off the street? You ask the Wisconsin Badgers football team if they have any players ready for them. With Rodgers and Adams, you bring both back and you hope, okay, go out there and make something happen. But Aaron's going to get, killed back there with the offensive line that they're going to be left with. And then with the defense being shuffled around and younger and not better, you're going to just have two guys. You're going to have Aaron Jones and, A.J. Dillon, and then Allen Lazard. But that's pretty much it. The wide receiving core is going to be turned upside down because MVS won't be there. Who else? There pretty much all the receivers except Lazard is on the roster right now. They just got to figure out what they're going to do with Adams. So even if you bring back Rodgers, you're going to just have to draft a bunch of receivers to fill out your roster. So Green Bay's in a tough situation. It's like me or field a team, basically, with Rodgers or a whole team. What do you want if you're Green Bay? For the trade issues, again, personally, I don't want him being a Bronco because I don't need that crap in my life.
Well, obviously, James, the AFC East, AFC West runs through Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs.
Yeah, I don't need that either. He can get traded too if he wanted to. I hope one day. It's not going to happen though, Loro. I don't need that. I need Herbert to be bad for the Chargers. I need them not to protect him as well. But I don't think he's. I mean, it kind of makes sense with the Broncos, but I'm not sure. They're very young. I don't think Rodgers wants to go into a situation like that, but Hackett is there. That would make it very welcoming. With the Titans, with Tannehill's salary hit, I don't think they want to deal with that. I know there's ways around it, but they would have to move a lot of money to get Rodgers there and deal away Tannehill. And then the Steelers are kind of intriguing because they need a quarterback. They need a reliable, a veteran one. So if he goes there, that'd be amazing. But just like Lovro, I can't believe we agree on anything, But I think he's going to stay a Green Bay Packer. I think they keep Adams, but I hope he becomes a Raider. But I think they sacrifice for those two players. They franchise Adams. They pay Rodgers whatever they can. They probably can't pay that $50 million. There's no damn way. Rodgers is going to have to sacrifice a few million with that. So I think he'll stay a Green Bay Packer in my eyes.
All right. Anyways, now from Aaron Rodgers, we'll talk about Chief star safety Tyrann Mathieu is going to reach the open market. He could potentially be receiving offers that would pay him $15 million per year. What percentage do you give Mathieu staying with the Chiefs if he leaves? Where do you think the most which destinations make the most sense for him? For me, I think he stays with the Chiefs because he loves it there. I think that the Chiefs should keep him because I think that the Chiefs secondary would not be the same without Tyrann Mathieu. And I'm at like 90 to 95% high that I think that he'll remain a Kansas City Chief. What about you, Isaiah?
I got him staying with the Chiefs at 25%. I don't think he's going to stay with the Chiefs just because I don't think they have the money to sign him to what he wants and also to field an entire team. It's kind of like the Green Bay situation where Patrick Mahomes is the only current quarterback making $50 million, and now he's about to see the consequences of that. He's going to lose a lot of star players on his team that make his team go where they go because of his high, hefty salary. So I think he's gone from the Kansas City Chiefs. I also think the Chiefs want to get younger at that position. And in terms of where he goes, you got to obviously start with the teams that have the most cap space. You got to look at the Jaguars. Jaguars need defensive help. They're willing to pay him that hefty salary that he wants. They've got a lot of cap space. Plus, he's a veteran. He will be able to lead their defense in the middle of that secondary. So I think that makes a lot of sense. The Jets probably because Robert Saleh always wants that ball-hawking safety, which Tyrann Mathieu is. Plus, they have a lot of cap space. And then when you look at the other teams, you just really don't see a contender that can pay him like $15, $16 million per year that he wants to be that top paid safety in the NFL. I mean, he's going to have to sacrifice if he wants to go to a contender. But if he wants to get paid 15, 16 mil, then probably the Jags or the Jets. But hey, I mean, if Tyrann Mathieu wants to take the minimum, I'd take him in San Francisco. Hell yeah. I mean, we need secondary help. I'd take him in San Francisco if he wants to sacrifice. But I don't see him doing it just because, when knowing Matthew's personality, he's already got a Super Bowl already. So it's not like a high priority to win one. I think for him right now, it's about securing the bag, and Jacksonville makes a lot of sense with him.
That could be. I mean, to think about that, him with Doug Peterson, that could be a really good defense there. So, James, what percentage would you give Tyrann Mathieu of staying with the Chiefs? And if he leaves, which destinations make the most sense for Tyrann Mathieu?
Right now, I'd go 49%, but if he's not a Raider, I don't want him in my division, honestly, so he can go wherever the hell he wants. If he doesn't want to win, you go to Jags and the Jets if you want the bag, like Isaiah mentioned. You know what teams really need him, though? Baltimore would need to create $9.7 million in cap space in order to get him, but they really need a leader like Tyrann Mathieu. That defense has been struggling, especially against the pass. And I think that would bring them instant credibility on defense. And then they would have to draft and get better. But look out for Baltimore in that sense. Then the team that just released or going to trade Amari Cooper, the Cowboys. Imagine him and Parsons together. That would be dangerous for not only the NFC East quarterbacks, but for whoever the Cowboys have on their schedule. So those are two landing spots I can see as, dream scenarios for those two teams. Part of me thinks, though, he's going to stay with Kansas City. They're going to try to bring him back, say, hey, we love having you. You and Chris Jones are pretty much the glue here that keeps the defense together. Everybody else gets beat except you two. you're all we have. So I think right now it's 49%, but we'll see. We'll see about Tyrann Mathieu staying with Kansas City.
All right. Anyways, folks, now going on to the collegiate level. LSU landed quarterback Jalen Daniels from Arizona State. And Isaiah, what is your takeaways on this move by the LSU Tigers?
My thoughts on this move by LSU is simply this. Brian Kelly is winning the offseason, not just with his dance moves, but, man, this guy can flat out recruit, man. He finally is free of all the stuff that he had to endure at Notre Dame with all the restrictions. And now you see what's going on at LSU with Brian Kelly being Brian Kelly. I mean, he's landing tons of great recruits. He's landing great players out of the transfer portal. Here's the thing about Jayden Daniels. He reminds me a lot of a Lamar Jackson because he's a great runner. He's a freakish athlete on the run, but his passing abilities leave a lot to be desired. So, I don't know if he's going to go in and win the quarterback job because, you know, in the SEC, you have to be able to have good passing abilities, not just running the football, but and then LSU's got, you know, that young kid, the freshman who danced with Brian Kelly that everybody saw the video, Howard, I think that's his name. And then they also have Miles Brennan, the lefty quarterback in the room. So they've got a really talented quarterback room, but I think this is a great pickup for Brian Kelly. I like Jayden Daniels, but he needs to work on his passing. If he can work on his passing with his running abilities, LSU will be scary in the SEC, but it all depends on Jayden Daniels' throwing ability. That's all that matters because we know he can run, but if he can be not great as a passer, but just be good as a passer, then I think he'll be dynamic in the SEC.
What about you, James? What is your takeaways on this as well?
Going into his senior year now at LSU, obviously Brian Kelly, you know, was not satisfied as what he saw at who he has as a quarterback. He was looking for someone better, but we know what he does is running well, but passing has to be better, and hopefully he gets more protection as well. He threw 10 touchdowns and 10 picks. He had a pretty good quarterback rating, but he threw for over 2,300 yards, 65% completion rating. He's going from the Pac-12 to the SEC, and that's a really big leap, honestly. He's going to be pressured a lot. You know, he probably won't work a miracle there. This is just another step for him. Honestly, he's trying to get, you know, drafted into the NFL somehow. I think right now for next draft, I think he would probably be like a 4th or 5th round pick just because of what he can do with his feet. But he's going to definitely have to improve the passing, and hopefully he has better receivers at LSU than what he had at ASU.
Yeah, you're definitely right about that, James. So anyways, folks, I'll tell you what, this has been a great show, folks, and we are going to head into some final thoughts. So, folks, let's talk about what's on the agenda for the week for the MI6 Sports Network. Tomorrow we have Wild Sports Talk. Callum McClurg will be back tomorrow to host the program, and James and I and Isaiah will be back on the analyst chair. And then on Friday, we'll have another show of Wild Sports Talk with me hosting it. And then also on Saturday, we'll have another night shift trivia show. And then next Sunday, we'll be back here all together. The Extra Point team will be back to preview the 2022 NFL free agency and talk about the offseason and what we want for our favorite teams as they look to improve on their rosters heading into the 2022 NFL season. and more. And then we got like a draft show for you all on the Extra Point as well. That's not going to be until April. What are your final thoughts, Isaiah?
Well, my final thoughts is, first of all, it was a great program. Thank you to all the fans for tuning into our show tonight. I know Ben couldn't make it on the program, but thanks to him for tuning in and commenting. I know it's late there in where he lives in Connecticut, so appreciate him for tuning in. My other final thoughts is that, Wild Sports Talk is going to be wild tomorrow. I can't wait for that. I hope we have some great news and games from the world of sports. And we might be doing Wild Sports Talk actually a little bit earlier than 10:30, just because I'm not going to go to work tomorrow. I'm off tomorrow, so we could be doing it earlier, but we're gonna work on that later on tonight into the morning, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what transpires. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that announcement. We might be doing Wild Sports Talk a little bit earlier than 10:30 tomorrow.
All right. And also, what are your final thoughts, James?
Oh, well, thank you as well, Christy Wilson, for tuning in, commenting, and watching. We already had some conference tournaments going on in NCAA. We have the bulk of them starting tomorrow and throughout the week, and then we get Selection Sunday. And as I tweeted after the Tulsa Beyond Half Court game winner for them tonight, it's the most wonderful time of year for me. I love March Madness. I love, all the happenings and the upsets especially, and I just can't wait for all that to start up next or 2 Thursdays from now, the whole tournament. But we're going to see some Cinderellas get in, hopefully, and make their impact. So I can't wait to see that. So I'm ready for March Madness since there's no spring training baseball happening.
Yeah, I'm ready for March Madness too, folks. So for James Gonzalez, Isaiah Leong, Asian Skip Bayless, Laurel signing off for now. Have a great night, everyone, and we'll talk to you tomorrow on Wild Sports Talk.